All right, good evening, and thank you all for joining us on tonight's Tele Town Hall. This call is paid for by Kasich for America. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight as we have Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger joining 2016 presidential candidate John Kasich to take your questions both online and over the phone. If you'd like to ask a question, please push *3 on your keypad or type the question right there on your webpage. Just push *3 on your keypad or type the question in on the webpage you're listening on. Governor Kasich, let's start off with you. You're in New Hampshire, having just completed your 100th Town Hall event. Tell us what you're experiencing out here in the Granite State.
Well, what's really interesting is that people not only are concerned about your ideas, what's in your head, but they also want to know what's in your heart. And so what the town halls do, as opposed to the debates, is that people get to take the measure of you. Because while issues matter, they also want to know, whether you're a leader, whether there's somebody that they can trust. And I'm excited tonight because we have Arnold Schwarzenegger with us. He's been a friend of mine for, forever. And I use him as a good example. Arnold is a guy who people naturally gravitate to when they see him and they meet him because he's got strength and he's got conviction. And while the ideas matter, while and Arnold and I are both positive guys that want to bring people together and solve problems, not as Republicans and Democrats, but really as Americans, then people can sense that. And that's what's been so great about these town halls. And when you do 100 of them, it's pretty remarkable. And furthermore, I hope that as we travel around the country, because we're making our plans now to go to South Carolina, to Nevada, to the South, to Michigan, I hope that we can continue to do the same kind of things where people can ask questions, where they can take the measure of you, not only from your experience and your issues, but also the fact that you understand their problems, you can relate to them, and you can be in a position of where they can have some confidence in you. So I just want to bring Arnold into the conversation here. Like I say, I've known Arnold for a very long time, and most people, they know Arnold from an unbelievable career, both in bodybuilding, of course, movies, the governor of California. He's, of course, all of those things. But I will also, and a great Republican. I can remember him coming to Columbus, Ohio, and speaking to thousands and thousands of people on behalf of George Bush the First. He would show up, and people would just love it because not just because he was a movie star, and not just because he was a bodybuilder, but because he's got a great brain, and he has worked himself up from a guy from Austria into the skies now, and now he's promoting fitness all over the world, not just in the United States, but in every single continent, which is amazing. But one of the things that has always touched me about Arnold is he had a program called the After School All-Stars, which we now promote in the state of Ohio. And that is a program to take kids who might be wandering in the malls, getting themselves in trouble, and getting them in a situation where they can have guidance, they can have tutoring, they can understand physical fitness, but their lives are being changed as a result of his program. And when I heard about it, I said, Arnold, how can I get to be part of that in Ohio? And he told me, and we're doing it. So without any further ado, Arnold, it's great to have you with us tonight.
Well, John, thank you very much, and hello, everybody. And it is really great to be part of this town hall here, which, interestingly enough, is you have done 100 town hall meetings, if I'm correct, right?
That's correct.
This is now 101. And as you maybe not know, but the number 101 has special meaning to me, because in the first Terminator, when I played the T-800, I was the model 101. And what they said about that model was that it doesn't feel fear, it doesn't feel pain, and he can take a beating, and he absolutely will not stop, ever, never give up. So this is you. You are the Terminator. so I mean, it's like wild when I see you and when I hear you talk about not, being able to take a beating. And of course, I told you that line several years ago already. Before you ever thought about running for governor, you said to me, "What's the secret?" I said, "Well, love the beating." Love the beating, because that's what you're going to get from the press, because not everyone is going to like you. That's just the way it is. And you followed that principle. And the other one was that you always were very positive and upbeat. And that's what your whole campaign is about, and this is what is so refreshing. And the majority of people that come to me not only talk about the policy issue, but, most people forget about the little details that one says in those debates or interviews, but in the end they walk away and say, this is a really positive guy, and he's a guy that doesn't just knock everyone else like the others do. He talks about the issues, and he talks about the future of this country, and that's what I want to hear. So I think it's a refreshing campaign that you have, so I want to congratulate you. But I just want to tell people, I said, how did I get involved in this now? Well, John basically just wanted to have someone stand with him, his favorite Republican. He wanted to have standing with him. Someone that is a true leader, a great conservative. But McCain was not available, so he said, Arnold, can you jump in here and do it? But anyway, so the bottom line is I'm very excited to be supportive here. And, people always ask me, what is it that you like about John? And I said to him, look, there's very simple things that I like about him. And I can go and just mention some of them to you right now before you get into the questions, or if you have any. I mean, John is a great leader. He's a fiscal conservative. He's uplifting and very positive. He's inclusive. He's a uniter and not a divider. He doesn't listen to the naysayers, which is very important because you hear all the time when you want to do great things, it can't be done. And whenever they say to John, it can't be done, he does it. And he works his ass off. I mean, just think about now the 100 town hall meetings. That is hard work. It was now 101, exactly. And then he also is, what is great about John is he knows who the ultimate boss is. The ultimate boss is the people. You are a public servant and you're not a party servant. So it is not the party that you serve, so it's not the other kind of forces that are out there. It is the people ultimately that you want to serve. And then he has experience. I mean, John has a kind of experience. I mean, when you think about it, he has been 18 years or whatever in Washington. And, and so he knows the national stage, he knows the international stage, and has been highly successful in that. And then now also on the state level and on the local level. So that is extremely important, which, of course, not every candidate can say. And then, of course, he's the only one I would trust with my checkbook. And that says a lot, because people should always ask themselves that question, would I trust that guy with my checkbook, or that woman with my checkbook, or would I let this person run my business? And you will see how quickly people say, no, whoa, wait a minute. But with John, you can trust him with your checkbook and with your business. And then, a little bit on the lighter side, I mean, he's the only politician that had the guts to go in the middle of hundreds of bodybuilders that were oiled up and standing there in their underwear and standing right there. I mean, this is the only politician that had the guts to do that at the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio, where we have 200,000 people coming to see the Arnold Sports and Fitness Festival. So this is just some of the things. The other thing, of course, when you talk about the state, he turned the $8 billion deficit into $2 billion surplus. And this was without raising taxes. As a matter of fact, he cut $5 billion in taxes. And he created 300,000 jobs. And as the chairman of the budget committee, when he was in Washington, it was the first time that they balanced the budget, as he says, since the man walked on the moon. So those are extraordinary things. So he's a true friend of mine. From a personal point of view, I just wanted to tell you, when I did Jingle All the Way, the movie, that movie went right in the toilet. And he went to see that movie. And he paid for the ticket. And he never asked me for the money. He never asked me back for the money, may I remind you. My mother asked me for the money back, but he didn't. So, I mean, that just shows you what kind of a friend he is. Okay, so, and of course he got more newspaper endorsements than any other candidate. So I can go on and on and on. But
I think I'll vote for him, Arnold.
But John, I just have to say that, as a friend, we have known each other for decades. I was there on several of your congressional races way back in the 80s already. And, we have been good friends and we have supported each other. I was there also when you ran for governor, and now I want to be there when you run for president. And, you have always shown, as you said, great knowledge in policy, and you've really done a great job with the state, but you have also always had the heart. When I talk to you about the after-school programs, as you said, this is for kids, where 70% of the kids come from homes where both of the parents are working, and so they don't have anyone in the afternoon like I had when I grew up in Austria that was there to do the homework with me and to help me and to push me and to mentor me and to coach me and stuff like that. So, that's why we started after-school programs. And, we were very successful in California. We then went nationwide, and they asked you if you could help. And you looked at the program, you studied it, you studied the returns, and you found out that it brings back and saves the state $3 down the line for every dollar that you spent. And you said, this is a wise investment, and this is going to be great for the kids. I'm in, and I'm going to put money in. And you have put money in, a lot of money for the program. And so I will never forget that, because you do have a heart, and I think those kind of programs are very, very important. And, of course, you've been such a great supporter with the Arnold Classic, with our Sports and Fitness Festival in Columbus, Ohio, which we have had now for 40 years. And in every single way, you have given me advice. When I was governor, you always were there. So anyway, I'm happy to be part of this phone discussion and this phone town hall meeting.
Well, Arnold, what can I say? To the ladies and gentlemen that are listening, Arnold just didn't get involved with this, create this program. He's involved in the program. I mean, he shows up, and people go absolutely crazy. I've never seen. Well, it's because he's a natural leader, and people sense that he's a man of hope. And but Arnold, I wanted you to know that when we're riding on our campaign bus, every once in a while we'll drop down and do a minute and a half of planks right on the bus. And you know what the planks are, Arnold? That's where you gotta really have the arms, the core. You gotta get the legs. It's fantastic. So we're going to take a couple calls. Let's have some people. They might want to talk to Arnold.
All right, yes. If you are just joining us tonight, we have presidential candidates in Ohio, Governor John Kasich and Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger on the line to take your questions. If you have a question, push *3 on your keypad. If you are on the phone and would like to ask a question, just push *3 or type your question in right there on the webpage. All right, we do have a question here. We have a lot of questions, but we're going to take one right now from Cynthia with an online question. She says, Governor Schwarzenegger, of all the movie roles you've had through the years, which character do you think Governor Kasich could play just as well as you did?
Well, I think that the one that comes to my mind is, as governor, you have to play, of course, I think you can be the kindergarten cop because you're dealing with the legislature. And I think that's exactly what you have to be when you're a governor. And so I think this is the character that will be best suited for him. And I already talked about the Terminator.
I wanted always, for everybody that's listening, I think I could have played twins, with Arnold. I think we're very similar looking. What do you think, guys? Are we about the same physical specimen?
I think so.
Twins?
Well, I think
I look better than Danny DeVito, I tell you that.
That's the chance. This is one thing we have in common. You had twins, and I did twins. So, there's something that we have in common also. We have to add this to this list of things we have in common. But anyway, any other questions?
Oh, of course. We have a lot of questions here. If you have a question, push *3 on your keypad or just go ahead and type it in the interface. We have a lot of people listening online. Let's take a phone question here. We have Ben from Hanover, New Hampshire, right here in the Granite State. Ben, are you there, please?
Ben, you're on with Arnold Schwarzenegger and John Kasich.
Hello? Yes.
Yeah, so I'm a Republican leading voter in New Hampshire, and I want to make sure that we end up winning in November. So I'm not sure that all the candidates, especially some of the senators, can actually beat Hillary Clinton. So my question for you, Governor Kasich, is can you beat her?
Well, look, here's the thing. I was reelected in Congress, elected and reelected 9 times in a district that was not a solid Republican district. And I was the only Republican in America in 1982 to defeat an incumbent Democrat. And then I ran for governor, and I had never run statewide. And it's the first time that somebody who had never run statewide, who beat an incumbent in 96 years. And when I ran for re-election, the interesting thing about that is there's a county in Ohio called Cuyahoga where Cleveland is located. And Barack Obama won that county by 40 points, and I was able to win that county. I won 86 out of 88 counties. I won 51% of union households, 26% of African Americans, and 60% of women. And if you were a Martian and you wanted to fly over America and take a snapshot of America, you'd fly over Ohio, because we are a microcosm of the whole country. Rural, urban, suburban, diversified, people of all types. And so I want to go back to the notion that you've got to not only have the good heart, but also, of course, the intelligence to be able to do things. For me, that's probably why Arnold and I get along so well, is my father carried mail on his back. His father was a coal miner who died of black lung, and my mother's mother could barely speak English as an immigrant from Yugoslavia. And my parents were Democrats. I grew up in a Democrat town, and when the wind blew the wrong way, people found themselves out of work. And there is something magical about being able to relate to people at the very gut level, and also to have a vision of what you want to get done. So, I wouldn't be doing this. My problem is, frankly, not the general election. My problem is going to be, getting through the primaries, because I'm not establishment. I'm not anti-establishment, but I make the establishment pretty nervous. I think the same way that Arnold does, because we do our thing to solve problems without regard to party. We do things to solve problems without regard to the special interest groups. And I think Hillary is a calculator. She's somebody who's looking at, what's this poll going to say, or what that focus group going to be. And, of course, she has other problems on top of it. So, I think we can win a general election. And I will tell you this, I will be able to compete in states like Illinois, in states like Michigan, in states like Pennsylvania, and we will win Ohio. We'll take the battle to them in places that nobody has taken to them in a very, very long time, because of the ability to connect with people who may not be the kind of the doctrinaire people the Republicans talk to. Arnold won, of course, election and re-election in California, which is really pretty remarkable. Arnold, why don't you talk about what you think it takes?
Well, first of all, let me just say, I just finished a movie in Ohio, and I spent almost 4 weeks there, and I had a chance to really talk to the people, and I was curious about, when I asked them, I said, what do you think about John Kasich's chances and all this? And they said, well, it's going to be a tough battle for him to emerge because there's so many candidates and this and that. And then I asked the next question, I said, well, tell me a little bit about his performance here. Oh, he's great. He's fantastic. He's really doing a good job. I like what he did on this. I like what he did on that. And these are people that were working, electricians that were working on a movie set. These were hardworking people, ordinary folks that were working, the drivers, electricians, cameramen, makeup artists and stuff like that, and they all had a positive impression, and if I would have taken a poll there, I think he would have gotten like an 80% favorable poll. And this, like I said, it was across of different producers, so business people, but also hardworking people and blue-collar workers and so on. So that to me was really interesting, and I think that just shows the kind of performance that you have given there in Ohio, and how you reach out. And that's why I said earlier, the important thing is that you're a public servant. You don't look at it as a Democratic issue. You don't look at things as a Republican issue. You don't look at it that way. You look at it as a people's issue. And you do what you think is the best for the people, rather than worrying about the parties. The parties make it their business to divide it all up and be divisive. But you are not. You're inclusive. And I think that when you go on the campaign trail and eventually go against the Democratic nominee, I think that you are going to win, because you can go and reach out, and you've proven it in your state how you can work with Democrats and Republicans. And the only way you were able, as the head of the House with the Budget Committee to go and to pass and to go and eliminate the deficit and have a balanced budget was by reaching out and working with Democrats and Republicans. And this is what I have said to you and I say to everybody. The only way that this country can be great again is if we go and work together. Because remember, there's no team, a football team, basketball team, baseball team, whatever it is, cannot win if you don't work together. So this has to happen, and you can bring both together. You've done it before on a national level, on a federal level, and you've done it in your state. You can bring people together, even though you don't agree with the other side. But you can bring them together, and you can come up and come with a great solution and fix the problems. And that's what we need in America to make America great again, because America is the greatest country in the world, but we are on a crossroads. And it's very important that we elect now a great leader that has the experience, doesn't just talk about it, but that actually can prove that they have the experience because you were there. You were in Washington 18 years, and you have been now in Ohio there ruling this state and with an iron fist and have done such a fantastic job. So that's what I call leadership, and this is why I think that you will do extremely well and you will win against the Democratic opponent.
Okay, let's take a few more, Jeff. Arnold, by the way, Arnold is, of course, really busy with The Apprentice, and we're not going to be able to keep him forever, so let's take a few more where he can answer.
Okay, we actually have quite a few in the queue here about budget issues, and wanted to address that because both governors we have with us tonight dealt with budget messes in their state of California and Ohio. Governor Schwarzenegger took office and presided over by far the lowest average year-to-year spending increases in the past 45 years. Governor Kasich took office in Ohio and turned huge shortfalls into surpluses. How do we use those experiences you've had in your states to clean up Washington and balance our budget?
Well, Arnold, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Well, I think that one of the things, as I said earlier, that I like about you, John, is that you believe that you shouldn't spend more money than you take in. And I think this is what the bottom line is, that, we in Washington have not learned that. I mean, now we are almost at $19 trillion. When are we ever going to pay this back? So I want to have someone there that has the experience to balance the budget. I mean, this is what gives us then that extra money to go and start building infrastructure. I mean, this is the biggest problem. No one, very few people, you sometimes talk about it, John, very eloquently about infrastructure, but we got to rebuild this country. The infrastructure is falling apart. The bridges are falling apart. The roads are falling apart. We need more freeways. We need more lanes. We need to upgrade everything. We have cities around the United States that have 100-year-old sewage systems and water pipes and stuff like that. We have to upgrade all this, from electricity to transportation, air transportation, rail transportation, car transportation, because remember that the faster you move people and goods, that is economic power. And so we have to go and rebuild America. This is very important. So you got to be fiscally conservative. You got to go and only, spend what you have, and you can't bring up this huge debt that we have here in this land. And so this is why I think John will be the only one of all those candidates that can actually go there and fix this problem. It is all a fiscal responsibility.
But, I was involved in one of the chief architects of balancing the federal budget by showing no favoritism and being in a position of where we've turned Ohio from an $8 billion hole, 20% of our operating budget into a $2 billion surplus. We can go on, but I just want to make a point here. Arnold, you hear Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've been there when he's walked down the hallways and people mob him because of the movies and everything. But Arnold's always been a guy that's had a burning desire to serve the public. I was there when he stood up for the Israelis, for our friends in Israel, and he felt so strongly about it and was featured at many of their events. I remember when he thought about running for governor, and then when he won governor. I mean, this is an incredible guy, and you can see he's got real depth. And, that's why we're buddies. Jeff, take a couple more for Arnold before we got to let him go.
Absolutely. We do have one in here from Jordan. Governor Schwarzenegger, Jordan wants to know if you heard about Governor Kasich's snowball fight in New Hampshire earlier today.
No, I didn't hear about it, but I know that he's very good with sports.
Arnold, I took some guys down today. No, I came out, and they actually threw a snowball at me. And, I'm not going to back down. And then I had a tackle. This guy was, he was there. He was weak. and I just had to take him out. And I knocked him down, and then once I knocked him down, of course these pack of real weaklings came and threw snow in his face and on his back. It was a glorious moment, and I even hit a couple reporters, Arnold. It was so much fun.
Well, that's great. I'm so glad that you have a great time.
The thing is that because I know how you campaigned, and ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest things that Arnold did when he was trying to relate to the members of the legislature and get his initiatives passed is he set up a smoking tent so people could come and have a smoke with him, because Arnold likes to smoke a cigar every once in a while. And look, the one thing that we both know is that politics is not just going to the dentist and getting a root canal. It's having some fun. Now, it's serious business, a serious matter, and you got to be focused. But at the same time, there's something about humor. There's something about having fun. There's something about being light at critical moments in time that provide the fuel for dramatic change. Jeff, go ahead. Give us another one.
All right, I think we need to, let's take a caller from the phone. If you have a question, push *3 on your keypad, or go ahead and just type it right in there. Let's see, how about, we have Corey on the line. Corey, I believe, is calling in from Oklahoma. Corey, you there, please? Corey?
Yes.
Corey, what's your question?
Governor Kasich, I was going to ask, what would be your first step in balancing the federal budget?
Well, look, let me answer this quickly, as we're going to run out of time with Arnold. He's got to get back on the set and do The Apprentice. But, sir, within the first 100 days, I would send to Congress a freeze on all federal regulations except for health and safety. I'd have a vice president review all the regulations so we're not stepping on small business. I would take the personal income tax, reduce it to 28, 25, and 10, 3 brackets with the capital gains of 15. Business taxes I would reduce to 25 and not double tax the profits that businesses pay overseas so they'll bring their money home and invest in America. And then also you would restrain government and have the growth of Medicare go from 7 to 5 and Medicaid from 5 to 3. Put, of course, more money to rebuild the defense while reforming the Pentagon, and freeze all other programs, and at the same time send welfare, Medicaid, job training, education back to the states, which are the laboratories of experimenting. And you get to a balanced budget by, number 1, providing economic growth, and number 2, by restraining government. And if you do that, you're going to get job creation. And that's the most important thing for all of us, that we're able to have the economic growth. Listen, I'm just getting a note. As you know, Arnold is now the leader of The Apprentice, and he's really took time out there. I mean, they film over every day, and hour after hour after hour, and he's got to get back to the set. Arnold, you're the best. Thanks for joining us tonight.
I thank you, but I just want to say, that as you said, I'm very passionate about this country. And this is why it is so important that we elected the right person to lead this. We have had enough of the talkers. Let's have someone that really has created the action before, that is experienced, and that really is the right person. That's the key thing, because this is the greatest country in the world. Me as an immigrant coming over here and having experienced firsthand how this is the land of opportunity, I wouldn't have been able to reach any of my goals and make any of my dreams become a reality if it wouldn't have been for America. And this is why I always was such a big believer in giving something back, if it is with Special Olympics or with after-school programs or running for governor then and being governor or whatever it is. I mean, I always wanted to give back, because this is so much fun to give back and to serve this country and to serve the people. And this is why I love what you're doing. I think you've the right energy, you're a positive person, so good luck with everything. So thank you very much, all of you.
Thanks, Arnold, and God bless. Thank you. That's pretty cool, huh? I mean, he's a remarkable guy, and what I wish people could see about him is that you naturally gravitate towards somebody who's got leadership qualities, and he's really got it. And you cannot believe how people will mob him, even to this day, because they see something that's strong, something that they feel that they might be able to connect to live a life bigger than themselves, because Arnold always lives a life bigger than himself. So, Jeff, how about a few more questions?
Yeah, I think we're going to stay on the line for a little bit. If you do have a question, push *3 on your keypad. We have Governor John Kasich with us on the line taking your questions. We have a question here from Tommy in New Jersey. Tommy, are you still with us, please?
Yeah, how you doing? Governor,
Tommy.
nice to talk to you. I've been watching for a while now, and every time I see you up there, I'm like, he's my guy. How do I get him out of this quagmire here? And just anecdotally, every time I talk to anyone, my parents, my family, about who do they like, I always mention you. They always say they like you. We all really want you. But the question is, the hanging chad, like you've already made mention. And my question is, you're in New Hampshire. How do we get you through and keep you all the way to the convention, and then some of these other knuckleheads blow out?
Well, Tommy, here's the thing. As you heard tonight, I've now doing 101 town hall meetings. Here in New Hampshire, we have a great team of people on the ground. And in politics, it's about the ground game. Like in football, it's on the line. In basketball, it's under the boards. And in politics, it's just blocking and tackling. And Senator Gordon Humphrey, who's a former senator from New Hampshire, says we have the best ground game in 40 years. Now, look, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not in the New York media market. I didn't have a network television show. I was not, I'm not in Washington. And so people really don't know me. So if we can come out of New Hampshire strong, which I believe we will do, then I'm going to get my moment to communicate, and people will know that my name is Kasich and not Kasich, or the governor of Ohio. I swear some people think my name is Governor of Ohio. But look, we're going to have our moment, and we're going to be able to carry on and talk about the things that matter to people, which is somebody who knows how to land the plane even when they're in the process of reforming.
Tommy, thanks for your question. And you certainly can direct your friends and family to go to johnkasich.com/joinme, johnkasich.com/joinme to see Governor Kasich's latest TV ad and help us build on the momentum here in the Granite State and beyond. Speaking of New Hampshire, let's take a question here from James in New Hampshire. James, are you with us, please?
Yes, thank you. Governor Kasich, a pleasure. Thank you for having this forum. It shows what retail politics is really all about here in the Granite State. There's a couple of things I wanted to mention. First of all, I was very impressed with some of the local endorsements that you've gotten here in New Hampshire. That's kind of tilted me a certain way, especially Tom Rath, who might not be a household name, but the man who I know who is incredibly astute politically. And the question I wanted to ask you is your perspective on the Ron Reagan-Tip O'Neill relationship, and how do you envision that? How do you see that?
Well, look, I was there. I worked with Reagan. I was elected at the age of 30, and I met Reagan the first time in 1976 when I was just a kid. But then I actually got to work with him when he was president, and I got elected to Congress. And look, the fact is that Reagan and Tip O'Neill could not have been farther apart philosophically. But they came together as a couple Irishmen who thought it was important to save some programs, including Social Security, where they worked together to get that done. And, at the end of the day, when you are in government, your proudest moments are when you do things that really solve problems. Your proudest moments when you look back are not because you made an inflammatory speech or you beat somebody in a debate. It's your proudest moments is when you look back and say, I used my time well. And I think that's exactly at moments what Reagan and Tip O'Neill did. They said there's certain things that have to happen for our country, and even though they had deep philosophical differences, they were able to figure out how to come together at critical moments and, for example, to extend the life of Social Security. So it's a good question. It's an interesting thing, and I just hope people can learn from that, and I certainly intend to spend time with people of both parties to solve some of our toughest problems.
Well, if I may, there's been a total lack of leadership out of the White House in the last 8 years. I mean, how many times has he actually gone to Congress to work with Congress? Because that's the other of the three legs in our government. But the thing with Tip O'Neill and Ron Reagan, those gentlemen were statesmen, much in the same fashion that Jerry Ford was a statesman, and he put country above everything else, above petty partisan politics, and that's what needs to happen, and that does not happen now. I mean, it's sickening, and that's why Congress has such a poor rating in the public, because we need that kind of leadership. And I don't know how the House is going to go, but I mean, a lot of that can come from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Absolutely.
It would be my hope that you would be able to bring that, to make that happen, to provide that kind of leadership.
Well, James, I've done that throughout my career. When I did the balanced budget, of course, I did it with the Bill Clinton administration with Senator Domenici, a senator from New Mexico, and we got to a balanced budget, and jobs were being created, and we put the country first. Well, just a word about Gerald Ford, because sometimes we don't realize what he did. After Nixon was impeached and he became the president, he pardoned Nixon. Many people think that because he did that, it cost him the chance at re-election. But I think Jerry Ford realized it was more important to be able to move forward and heal the country than to have this open wound there that people would pick at. And, what we know about Reagan, O'Neill, and Ford is they're all gone. And sometimes in life we want to cling to life and think that today's the most important thing. But life is but a breath, and it's what you do with it when you're here. And those guys were people that really promoted our country and agreed to disagree at many times, but at the end, doing the right thing.
James, thank you for your question. We do have time for a few more questions. Let's take one very quick from Kathy. Kathy, you on the line, please?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, how are you? Governor, I'm a big fan, like your caller from New Jersey. I do spend a lot of time talking to people about what a great person you are, and I always say that you're the 3C, and what I mean by that is you have compassion, courage, and common sense. I'm also an active member of the Latino community in our state, and I really would like to know what message you would like to pass along to our country to bring people together and to try to heal some of the divisiveness that we have among different cultures and people from different backgrounds.
Well, one of the things that I've been most pleased about in my state is the ability to give some element of hope to the African American community, to get them in a position of where they feel that they're included, whether that has been reform of the schools, whether it's been set-aside programs that have allowed our minority businesses to be able to develop entrepreneurship, whether it's criminal justice reform. All of these things together have brought a sense, in large parts of that community, of a sense of hope. When we take a look at the broad nature of America and the diversity of America, we have to celebrate the Latinos who are here, who play such a critical role in our communities, hardworking, common sense, God-fearing. And what I will say is, let's separate the folks who are here and came here legally, and for those that didn't, we're not going to deport them. We'll make them pay a fine. We'll make them pay some back taxes or whatever. But they're now a part of our community if they haven't committed any crimes since they've been here, and we should give them a path to legalization. And, of course, we have to protect our border, but we also ought to have a guest worker program for people to come in and out. So I think that some of this debate has gotten itself confused with so many of the hardworking members of our minority communities across this great country, whether they're Latinos, whether they're Asians, whether they're African Americans. Everybody deserves a chance. Everybody should have an opportunity to rise. And I can't think of any other way to do it other than to say clearly what I've just told you. Thank you for your call.
Thank you, Kathy. We do have time for one more question. If you didn't get a chance to get your question in, please stay on the line after the call and you'll have a chance to leave a voicemail or a comment for Governor Kasich, and he'll make sure that Governor Schwarzenegger gets the message. How about a question here from Shane, Governor Kasich, and then we'll let you close.
Yes. What are you gonna do to stop ISIS from gaining into our country?
Well, sir, I believe we need to have the same kind of coalition that we saw when we drove Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, and that means the Muslim or Arab world has to work with the West, our friends in Europe, our allies, along with us. We have to be the leader, and we need to have that coalition, both in the air and on the ground, with our leadership to destroy ISIS wherever they exist. And then once we have taken them down and things have become more stable, we turn it over to the regional powers to sort out what the map ought to look like, and then we should come home. And to think we're going to convert everybody to our way of life is not something that I believe in. I don't believe in nation building. I don't believe in civil wars. But it's clear that we have to destroy ISIS. And then here at home, we have to make sure that our counterterrorism task forces, which are made up of the FBI, Homeland Security, state and local law enforcement, have the tools and the resources they need so they can disrupt plots from people here within our country who mean us harm, and to make sure that they have what they need to keep us safe.
Shane, appreciate your question. Governor Kasich, we're a few days out from the New Hampshire primary. Wanted to give you a chance to close this out here tonight. It was quite an experience. I think everyone, all our callers and listeners, had a great time. What do you want to leave for everyone?
Well, look, I would appreciate the support of people here in New Hampshire. I've worked diligently here in these town halls and being able to be in a position to listen and to lead. And, I've got a record both on national security, job creation in Washington, and, of course, in Ohio, with being able to foster an environment where we have actually grown private sector jobs to the tune of over 400,000 by balancing budgets, cutting taxes more than anybody in this country, any sitting governor, while at the same time supporting things like returning education, welfare, Medicaid to the states so we can be empowered, so the states can be the engines of innovation where we can learn from one another. Shrink the power of the federal government, empower states and local communities to do what needs to be done to solve problems and make things work and solve problems again in America. So I would very much appreciate your vote. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. And wasn't it cool to have the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Thank you, Governor Kasich, and thank you to Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Please go to johnkasich.com/join me. This call is paid for by Kasich for America. Good night.